Dear Sagittarius, welcome to the healing space of awakening souls. A space where every crack in your heart is seen, not to be judged, but to be held in light. Today I want to share something with you, something you may have felt vaguely, quietly, but perhaps no one has ever been gentle enough to put into words. A Sagittarius soul, the one who laughs loud, walks forward without looking back, who hides old wounds behind bright eyes, is in fact carrying something deeply sacred within. A silent flame, like a burning arrow pointed toward an endless horizon. Not a chaotic destiny, as people often say. Not a restless urge to escape, or a constant craving for adventure with no end. But an inner fire, steady, silent, burning quietly in your chest, never going out, even when it trembles in the headwinds. And if you are a Sagittarius or walking alongside one on this path, I invite you to pause for just a few minutes. Because what I'm about to say may help you realize that what you've been calling tiredness or emptiness is actually a quiet message from the universe, asking you to come home, not to a place, but to the original light within you, to the place where your shadow no longer has control, to the place where you don't have to brace yourself just to feel strong, to the place where you can be, fully and freely, yourself. And now, if you're ready, let's walk inward together. Not to search for fault, but to gently witness something that stayed too long inside you, a shadow that once served as protection, but now is asking to be released. Let's listen with your whole heart, because what's coming next isn't an explanation, it's a return. A homecoming to you. Have you ever wondered why, after all the falls, the heartbreaks, the misunderstandings, you still choose to rise? To keep walking forward, carrying a gaze that still dares to hope for the world? That's not stubbornness. It's not apathy. It's because you are Sagittarius, a soul lit by the universe itself, by faith, by compassion, and by an unshakable hunger for the sacred truth of life. People often remember you as the wanderer, but few see what lies more quietly underneath. You are a bearer of light, not the kind that shouts and blinds, but the kind that knows when to step back, when to yield, the kind that radiates from within when you choose forgiveness over retaliation, when you choose to believe again, even after your heart has been broken. I believe the strongest light is the one that has known pain. You don't need to try to inspire anyone. You are the inspiration. The way you find meaning in hardship, the way you question even the truths others take for granted, that is the kind of courage the world is starving for. But because of that light, you also become a target for the soul's deepest spiritual trials. And the danger is this: some forms of darkness are masters of disguise. They don't show up like demons. They come dressed as, I'm fine, I'm strong, I don't need anyone. Have you ever felt like you had to hold it all together just to be a light, even when your heart was running on empty? Pause for a moment. Be honest. Have there been times when all you really wanted was just to sit down and cry? No reason, just a sorrow without a name, as if your soul was waiting for you to finally admit, I need to be held too. Because you weren't born to be a light for others at the cost of forgetting your own. There is no light that truly shines unless it comes from honesty with one's own heart. And there is no mission so sacred that it should cost you the peace of your soul. Dear Sagittarius, never forget, a part of your true strength is your ability to say, I'm not okay, and that doesn't make me weak. If something in these words is touching a quiet part of you, leave a comment. I give myself permission to be honest. Because that sentence is more than just words. It's the first step in allowing your true light to return. And if you feel this message could bring warmth to someone you care about, please share this video with them. Because sometimes a gentle word can soften a day that feels unbearable. And now that we've looked gently at the light within you, it's time to turn toward the other side. A part of you that's been there for so long, but never quite named. Some things don't scream for attention, they just stay, quietly, like a shadow hiding behind a familiar smile. No one sees it, and you forget it's even there. Sagittarius, the very thing that makes you extraordinary, is also what makes you deeply vulnerable. Your faith. You believe in people. You believe in what's right. You believe that even if today is dark, tomorrow will bring the light. And so, when someone breaks that trust, it doesn't just hurt. It cracks something deep inside your foundation of hope. I used to think the shadow of Sagittarius was anger. But it's not. Your shadow is more subtle. It looks like, I'm okay. It's no big deal. I've got this. I've always been strong. But that strength, if it doesn't come from kindness toward yourself, is just a heavy coat soaked in responsibility, worn for so long you forget how your own skin was meant to breathe. It's a kind of light, but it's artificial. Bright, but cold. Have you ever smiled in a room full of people and still felt completely empty inside? Have you ever chosen to go far away, not because you needed space, but because you weren't sure anyone close enough would really hold you? If so, that doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're tired. Tired of keeping the flame in your heart burning while no one notices that you need warmth too. And sometimes, the shadow doesn't come from the outside. It comes from all the times you silenced your real feelings just to be the good enough version of yourself. From all the times you denied your own needs just to keep the peace. From the times you stayed quiet because you believed no one would understand anyway. But silence, when stretched too long, becomes the very ground on which the shadow grows. Here's what matters most. Your shadow is not your enemy. It was once a companion. It helped you survive. But now, you've grown. You've awakened. You've outgrown its protection, and it's time to let it go. Not out of hate, but because you simply don't need it anymore. I want to share something with you from personal experience. True light doesn't need to strain to shine. It only needs to be what it is. And that alone is enough. And so do you. You don't have to be okay to be worthy of love. You don't have to be strong to be worthy of being heard. You only need to be honest with your heart. If something in this moment has touched something deep inside you, pause and try writing down just one sentence as a quiet promise to yourself. I choose to be honest with my feelings. Because with that one sentence, you begin to do something your shadow can no longer control. You begin to return to yourself, unarmored, unhidden. And once you've seen the shadow, once you've named it with tenderness, the next question quietly arises. If I keep holding this shadow inside, what am I sacrificing? Are you ready to take the next step, to release the energy that was always meant to belong to your light? If so, I will walk with you, whenever you're ready. Because some things, if left unhealed, will begin to rule us. If we don't look at them, they'll begin to lead us from the dark. And that's exactly what's happening, quietly, to more Sagittarius souls than you might realize. Because you are the light. When your shadow grows inside you, it doesn't just block your path. It takes over, not loudly, not dramatically. It changes how you think, how you choose, how you live, one silent decision at a time. You're still you, just a version drifting further and further from who you really are. There's a quiet truth, both gentle and heartbreaking. Darkness rarely arrives like a storm. It shows up like an old friend, polite, familiar, undemanding. And if you don't notice it, it slowly begins to claim the most beautiful parts of you. For a Sagittarius, someone who lives toward the light, who thrives on ideals and freedom, the deepest wound isn't betrayal by someone else. It's when you no longer recognize yourself. The shadow isn't evil. It once came to keep you alive. Maybe it was the habit of pretending, the mask of forced optimism, the role of the strong one. You wore it like armor, so no one could see the tender parts you feared to reveal. But over time, that armor grew heavy. And one day, you wake up and realize you've forgotten what it feels like to live unburdened. I once knew a Sagittarius who was the light of her circle, always with the right words, the right answers. And then one day, in a still and quiet moment, she said, "I can't remember the last time I felt peace." Turns out, the one inspiring everyone forgot how to recharge herself. The shadow doesn't destroy you all at once. It makes you live a little less truly every day. You still do what's right. You're still kind. You still smile. But inside, you begin to fade. You live, but no longer feel alive. You give, but your spirit grows dim inside your very acts of giving. The shadow doesn't ruin you by dragging you into darkness. It convinces you that survival is the only goal. And so, little by little, you stop dreaming big. Avoid what sets your heart alight because it feels too far out of reach. Quietly agree to things that no longer align, just to keep the peace. Until one day, you look in the mirror and wonder if the eyes staring back at you still belong to someone free. I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, am I living to please others, or am I truly living? Because if you've ever felt nothing after reaching success, after finishing a goal, even while being surrounded by people you once held dear, then maybe the shadow has already taken the driver's seat of your life. But here's the beautiful truth. You can choose again, at any moment. The shadow only exists in silence. But the moment you name it, speak to it with tenderness. You take your light back. You don't need to force strength. You only need honesty to begin healing. You don't have to erase the shadow completely because it's part of you. But you do have the right to place it where it belongs. Behind you. No longer driving. No longer choosing for you. And if something deep within you has stirred while reading this, try whispering just one sentence. I am ready to live truthfully. That's it. Because sometimes, one sincere whisper is the first beam of light that pierces through the thickest shadow. There are storms in life that don't come from outside. They rise from within, from the edges of yourself you've never dared to cross, from the pain you've buried so deeply you forgot you ever hurt. For Sagittarius, a soul made for freedom, wired to reach outward and shine, being alone often feels like something is wrong. You're used to light, to motion, to conversations that spark inspiration. But sometimes, the universe takes you to the very place you fear most. A silence where no one understands, no one answers. No one stands beside you, not to punish, but to lead you back to someone who's been there all along. You, without the roles, without the image, without the glow. I know, being caught in a storm with no one to shelter beside is a loneliness that aches to the bone. You might wake up in the middle of the night and find yourself falling into a vast emptiness, where everything you once believed in feels suddenly fragile. You might look back on the people you've stayed for and realize you gave so much you forgot how to love yourself. You might revisit things that once brought you joy and find they no longer move you. Have you ever felt that too? There's a very particular kind of loneliness, one that only appears when you've gone too far from your soul. And if today you find yourself in that place, somewhere between emotional storms, confusion, and exhaustion, please remember, you are not alone. You're not the only one who feels lost in a world that looks full from the outside. You're not the only one trying to rediscover the voice within yourself. And you're certainly not the only one asking, do I still have the strength to start again? Dear Sagittarius, do you know what magic unfolds when you stop resisting the storm and accept it as part of you? You stop running. You stop pretending. You begin to listen, not to others, but to your own breathing. You learn how to sit still, and you discover stillness isn't as terrifying as you thought. It's where your soul begins to heal. I once heard something beautiful. God doesn't promise to calm every storm, but He promises to walk with you through every wave. And you know what? This storm didn't come to drown you. It came to cleanse you of everything you no longer need. It came so you'd no longer ask permission to live in your truth. It came to strip away the false so that your real light could finally emerge. If you're feeling alone right now, write down one quiet truth. I give myself permission to be alone, but no longer feel abandoned. Because there's a big difference between being alone and being left behind. You are not left behind. You are being led on a path only your soul understands. And not everyone has the courage to walk it. One day you'll look back at this season and feel grateful for it. Grateful for the nights when no one stayed, because they taught you how to stay with yourself. Grateful for the letdowns, because they taught you to see the difference between real love and convenient attachment. Grateful even for the moments you thought you had broken, because through them, you learned you never truly lost your light. And you know something? Even in the middle of the storm, there are always others quietly walking a similar path. People you've never met, but whose souls are resonating with yours in this very moment. We connect, not through words, but through energy, through hearts learning how to live truthfully again. If any of this is touching you, leave a comment. I am no longer lost. I am coming home. And who knows, someone else also feeling unsteady might see your words and feel embraced through them. Because when a soul begins to return, the light finds its way back, naturally. Not every homecoming is loud. Some unfold in silence. Just you, a quiet sky, and a gentle realization, I am no longer who I used to be. Dear Sagittarius, you didn't walk through the darkness to reject the light. You walk through it to understand that true light doesn't come from outside. It begins with a single choice. Each time you choose honesty over holding it all in, stillness over escape, inner truth over external approval. That is the moment your soul begins to awaken. Softly, without needing to prove, without rushing. Maybe you once believed that awakening would arrive like thunder, like lightning, like a divine miracle. But really, awakening is often just a long, slow exhale, a quiet admission, I'm tired of living untrue. And from there, you begin to choose again, small, simple things. One small boundary, disconnecting from what drains you. One soft decision, saying no to the person who makes you earn their love by shrinking. One forgiving glance toward the past version of yourself who didn't yet know how to protect your heart. And the wonder is this, when you stop trying to be anything else, when you let go of control, when you release your grip on what you only held out of fear, that's when the things truly meant for you begin to return. Not with noise, but with resonance, with a quiet knowing, I am finally living. I believe, with all my heart, that every Sagittarius soul will one day find their light again. Not the restless fire that longs to run far, but the steady flame, warm enough to soothe yourself, bright enough to lead others. Because you're not just someone seeking truth. You are the one who carves the path where truth can shine. Take a moment, ask yourself, now that I've been through all of it, what truly remains? If the answer is a heart, still open, though it's known pain. A gaze, once blurred by tears, now clearer than ever before. A peace that doesn't need to be validated by anyone else, then you've already begun a whole new journey. Not one of searching for someone, but a journey of coming home to yourself, whole, abundant, and free. And if you've made it this far, offer yourself one small affirmation. As a quiet greeting to the version of you that's just now beginning to bloom. I have returned, and this time I will live as who I truly am. Because there is nothing more sacred in this world than living as yourself, without permission, without fear of being misunderstood. If this message has touched your heart, please give it a like. Share it with someone you love. Who knows? They might be walking through the dark too, and this gentle message might be the very light they've been waiting for. You have walked through the full spectrum of emotions, and you're still here. You've journeyed through the first light, the silent shadow, the quiet possession, the loneliness within the storm, and now you've arrived at your return, fully awake. not because you were weak, but because you've been braver than you ever knew. Thank you for choosing the light. And if you're ready, a new life is waiting for you just beyond the horizon. If you've stayed with this message until the very end, then perhaps you are no longer the same version of yourself. You may not have all the answers. You might still feel afraid, still feel uncertain, but the very fact that you listened all the way through is already proof that you've chosen the light. None of us pass through darkness without bearing a mark. But often, those very cracks are the places where light breaks through first. I don't know where you are on your journey, but I believe that every Sagittarius soul was born with a sacred compass, one that always points toward what is good and true and whole. So trust your intuition. Trust the gentle whisper within. And trust that if you are brave enough to release the shadow, the universe will bring you everything that matches your light. If this journey has touched your heart, leave a comment below. I am ready to live truly, love truly, and walk into my light. Because sometimes a single affirmation is the key that opens the door you've been waiting at your whole life. And if you believe this message could reach someone else, share this video. Let the light you receive today ripple outward to another soul who needs it now more than ever. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next messages written just for your spirit on your journey back to truth, to freedom, and to the purest kind of love. You are not alone, you never were, and you are always enough if only you stop and see yourself through loving eyes. I'll meet you again in another message, in another story, where the light continues to reach heart to heart.